Okay. So here we are. I am late, but this is going to be an ongoing process. Every time I rent a car, I'm going to provide feedback. Now, I rented this car when I was driving, when I flew into Washington and I drove to Vancouver. So, Vancouver, Canada, British Columbia. So, this is the car that I had, which is a Volvo XC40 recharge only. I'm gonna say that um it wasn't a bad car. It wasn't a bad car. Um I was on 3/4 of a charge and I was able to make it. It was about it's about a 2 hour drive or so um to the hotel, and I was able to be there, and I didn't have to charge her for a couple of days. Um so how long did that take me? Well, how much of a charge did that take? I would say 3/4, it would be like the equivalent of 3/4 of a tank because it was not a full charge. So it was about 70-80% charged. Um, I was about, I would say 60%. So it took about a little under 20%, which I think is good. When I think about charging space, I think Volvo is done a pretty decent job. The the pickup and go is great. The noise level for sure is great. Um, Air condition didn't run it because that's the thing too. Like I know that people talk about like all the other amenities that kind of run down gas. Well, I'm gonna let you know that electric, you're gonna see that run down quick. So if you have air condition, heat, radio, um, charging your phone, all of that is going to affect your charge. How much, and I will say that at least for this vehicle, it really didn't affect it at all because I did have heat going because it was pretty cloudy. It was a little rainy on the way up, and um we had multiple chargers going. I do love the feature, of course, that you can just sit it at the top and it'll just automatically charge, so you don't have to plug it up. Um, of course, Apple CarPlay, all that other stuff. The only problem I have now, this is not accurate. Like, now, trunk space. The trunk space is trash. Because even though in theory you could do this, um, unless you decide to get, there is something that comes with this. There's like a little fold thing that goes here that prevents you from piling up your back seat like this. Like this right here would not have made it. These two, you absolutely could not have set it up like that because right here is that piece of fabric that they have that would prevent this from closing. So the trunk space is not good. And even if you opt, I don't know if it's an optional, but I mean, it seems like it's an optional here, but if it is optional to not have that piece of fabric that goes right here, so then your trunk can completely close. If you can get rid of that, um, maybe you can, I don't know. then you still are going to have a problem seeing out the back of your car. That's problem number two for me. I know that we're much more sophisticated with getting notifications about driving on the sides. My car has that. Um, your backup mirrors, your front mirrors, you have all of that. I got all of that on my car. My car is completely fully loaded. And even if, and I'm sure Volvo has that because Volvo had a reputation for being one of the safest cars. I'm not saying it is still or it isn't. I'm just making the statement that it has that reputation. So I'm sure that it has all this safety precautions. Even with all of that being said and done, um, the amount of window space here out the back is so small. And for me, I like to be able to turn my head or look up and see people behind me. I do not want to rely on my side mirrors only. And for this car, because of habit, I look up and I can only see about this much. I'm exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating that much. So this is really frustrating. I mean, that was the most frustrating feature about the car was looking out the rearview mirror and seeing that there's not much to see. And looking out, so I had to rely more on my side mirrors to see something behind me. And I don't like that. I mean, especially when it comes to parking, I get that you don't have to do this anymore. You can really rely on the cameras, but I don't rely just on cameras. I also rely on looking in the back. So I'm going to put that out there. Other than that, okay, how do I feel about the plug-in charge? That's the last part. Plug-in charge. I had problems with the plug-in charge for me. Um, my plug-in did not, it was the plug-in wasn't completely charging consistently. And so I had to go to multiple places, multiple spots to get it to charge. I will also say that it does not take a long time to charge. So I thought that's pretty cool. Unlike the Jeep Cherokee, not the Jeep Cherokee, the Jeep Wrangler, where it actually tells you all your options of what kind of charger you could get, what kind of charger and how long it's going to take to charge. Unlike that, the Volvo doesn't tell you that, but the Volvo does let you know how long the charge is. So it's very much so like your iPhone when it comes to that, which I think is kind of dope. And I think that's kind of standard on all these cars. Um, but I think it's a pretty car. It's not for me because of the rearview mirror. I think the rearview mirror is a steep problem. I think the trunk space is a problem for me. For me. But I do think that the trunk space could be solved without that feature. Um, but also, I will tell you that the level of depth in that trunk isn't as big as you would think, as you would think it to be. So I do think that is also a problem for me as well. But as a whole, it charges well, it drives well. I mean, and as you can see, the price, it's pretty reasonable. I hate to say, sounds so harsh for it to be that pretty reasonable, but you may want to elevate yourself to if you want more space to see at the back, and if you want a bigger trunk, then you may want to elevate yourself and go up a class. They do have, I know Volvo has a larger class. I do not know what that charge is going to be like, how how good it's going to be at holding one charge and how many miles you can go. All I'm going to say is I know that the Volvo does an excellent job at being able, I think it's like a little under around 300 miles, don't quote me, but it's close when it comes to going from 0 to 100% and how much you can get out of that. And I think that's pretty cool. The charging is pretty quick. Um, yeah, the charging is pretty quick. And I think it's pretty feasible to buy this car in a place like Los Angeles when you may have to drive over an hour or something because of traffic or something like that. So I will, or just drive over an hour, maybe 2 hours, just because of distance. I will, the back seat is pretty roomy. It feels comfortable. It's a little tight, but it's not terrible. Um, so something to consider too. Bye.